How's it going, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Arkansas coming off a rather uninspiring win over the UAB Blazers last weekend. We'll take one last look back at some of the things that went on in that game, some of my thoughts about the state of the program, all that type of stuff. We're going to look ahead, of course, to the Auburn Tigers and that game on Saturday at 2:30. That'll be on ESPN. And we're going to be welcomed by Danny West, who's going to give us the latest on recruiting, give his thoughts on where Arkansas football is right now, and we'll take your questions if we have time as well. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. About a million ways to watch and listen to the show, including Instagram Live, and you know that I forgot to hit go live. So now we're on Instagram. So streaming at a lot of different places: X, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. So plenty of ways to watch and listen. Give us that like on not a like, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Give us a like or a thumbs up on all the other platforms if you enjoy the show. If you don't, you don't have to, but if you do like it, we'd really appreciate you giving us a nice review. So anyway, Arkansas and Auburn this weekend. That is at 2:30, as I mentioned, on ESPN. That was going to be like a 2:30 or 3:15. They didn't know, so they settled in at 2:30. We also know that the Texas A&M game the next weekend is 2:30 or 3:15, kind of the same parameters. So we'll find out, I guess, on that next Monday exactly what time that'll be. Auburn is 2-1 right now. They beat Alabama A&M 73-3. They lost to Cal 14-21. And they beat New Mexico last weekend 45-19. As Sam Pittman mentioned in his weekly Monday press conference, this will be Auburn's fourth straight home game. Fourth straight. They play their fifth straight home game the next weekend against Oklahoma. Pretty wild to think about how the schedules are shaped up, and just the balance is just so ridiculous. Arkansas won't play its second game in Fayetteville until October 6th against Tennessee, October 5th. Against Tennessee. So a little perspective on that. It's a power stripe out. I don't know what a power stripe out is. Anybody from Auburn watching the show, let me know what a power stripe out means. Is that, it'd be cool maybe to do a stripe around the venue instead of like vertically. I don't know. I don't know what a power stripe out is. Maybe something to do with the different colors, or Auburn's obviously got orange and blue, navy, white. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see what a power stripe out is, I guess. I will not be making the trip. As many of you know, I absolutely despise what Auburn has done to the media there. I don't know why anybody in the media would want to even go to that press box. They put it in the end zone behind the big screen. It takes you completely out of the game. It's the worst press box in the SEC. They used to have a really good one. I don't expect them to continue to put press like right where they do. But, move us over to the side or something. Give us a good viewing angle. We've got to cover the team. We got to be able to report on it. And just it ruins our ability to cover the game, and they don't seem to give a crap. So I'm not going to Auburn. I've sworn that place off. I haven't been since the first time I went and sat in that city, that crappy, that crappy seat. Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's okay. All right. So power stripe out for Auburn. Bet Saracen has this opened up at 4.5. Arkansas at plus 4.5. It is down to plus 3 now. So quite a change in a short amount of time on Bet Saracen, at least for the Arkansas-Auburn game, all the way down to plus 3 for Arkansas. All right, let's see what Sam Pittman had to say. Asked him a couple of questions at noon today during his regular Monday press conference. This goes just about 3 minutes, so if you don't want to listen to it, you can skip ahead if you're watching this later. But I've cut it up and taken out some of the bits, and it's just 3 minutes long.
Auburn has a really good team. Very physical on the offensive line. Obviously, Hunter is a great running back. Quarterback, they brought in Brown, had an exceptional game, 4 touchdowns, and can really sling the ball. They protected him well. They've got good wideouts, tight end, the transfer. Coach Freeze always uses tight ends well. Very physical guys. Fairweather really can run routes and catch. Good player. Defensively, a little different than what the coach was at A&M. A lot of odd, 3 down, a lot of blitzing. Jack linebacker really well. He makes a lot of plays. I like Falk kid, the defensive end, 15. Already has 3 sacks on the year. Long, good player. Great corner in Scott, and safety and nickel and Smith.
Now you're turning the page, but you went back and looked at the film and everything. What did it tell you? Anything jump out that maybe was different than you thought in game?
A lot of times you have to go back and see who played well and who didn't and all that. But schematically, we just didn't play well at all. They had the ball most of the first half, and 15-play drive to start it, 2-play drive to score again. We just didn't play well defensively, especially in the first half, and pretty much the entire game. Offensively, I think it's what you saw. I mean, what we saw after the game. We can run the ball. Probably need to run it more. But we can also throw it. We just weren't quite as accurate. Didn't run as good of routes as we could have, and we dropped 5 balls, and that certainly has a lot to do with winning and losing. And
why do you think it's so difficult sometimes to maybe get up for an opponent, maybe that's not have a big name on their chest? I mean, like we look at South Carolina week 1, they struggled against Old Dominion, then they blasted Kentucky, who played well against Georgia last week.
I think you play a little bit better when you didn't play well. Hopefully you won the game, and you look at Kentucky, same thing. They were mad. They got focused and played a great game against Georgia. These games are about us versus us. I mean, the one Saturday was about us versus us. It's, we had better players. Hopefully we had as good a coaching staff as they did, and the fire that you play with is something that's expected, and so I don't know for sure how. Obviously I think all of us coaches would like to figure that out, but I think I heard Kirby say they were mad. They were embarrassed the week before Kentucky, and that's a little bit how we feel right now going into the Auburn game. So hopefully that's a good thing for us.
So Arkansas did come away with the win, and that's important to remember. And weren't perfect, obviously, far from perfect. Got a lot of work to do. And if you're one of those people that like expect perfection and want everything to be just hum perfectly, then maybe you should probably become a fan of like Ozarks Go. Ozarks Go internet service in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and the surrounding area, parts of Oklahoma. I've used these guys for well over 3 years now. I was using them before they were a sponsor of the show. They do a fantastic job. 479-684-4900 if you want to find out if they're available in your area, and you can reach out to them at ozarksgo.net/hawg. That's HAWG. And you can use the promo code BIDDY1 and you can get a free month. Pretty good deal there. What I always say about Ozarks Go is these guys it just works. It just constantly works. And I mean, what more do you want? Like, it doesn't glitch out. You don't have, at least my experience, I've never had a problem with it glitching out on me. It just hums. I use the multi-gig. They use several different tiers of internet service. Gigabit's probably good for a lot of people since I'm business and use it a lot. The multi-gig is really, really good for me. So, yeah. Go check them out, ozarksgo.net/hawg. Nailed the segue. I got you hooked right there. You thought I was going to say, hey, you should lower your expectations for Arkansas, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't lower your expectations. You should have high expectations for this team. Let's look at the latest injury report real quick. It looks unlikely on Hudson Clark. And we'll get, for the first time ever on Wednesday, we'll get an official Arkansas injury report. That'll be at least by 7 o'clock. It has to be out by 7 o'clock, and then an updated version 90 minutes before kickoff. So something to watch there. You have to report it. Like, there's fines involved if you don't report exactly, what's going on with your team. So pretty cool. But Hudson Clark likely out, which is a shame because I feel like they could use his experience at the nickel spot where they struggled a little bit on Saturday. We'll talk about that some. And it's looking better on Addison Nichols. I'll say this. The fact that he couldn't make it through one series, and then I had my binoculars and I looked down at his ankle and it's like this big. It's so taped. You've never seen a more taped up ankle. The fact that it was that big, I was just like, this guy's not playing next week. Like, if this is how bad it is, he's not playing next week. And then I see him after, I can't remember what play it was, but he's just walking. This is like a couple hours later. I felt like he's just walking around in full gear and on the sideline. So maybe he's going to be okay enough to play by Saturday. Sam Pittman said that he was better today than he was Thursday of last week. He was better today. So maybe that's encouraging, but that concerns me a little bit because what did we talk about all offseason? They're an injury away on the offensive line from being in trouble, from it being a little bit of a scary situation. We'll talk about that a little bit here in a little bit, but we'll talk about that a little bit here in a little bit. That's what I just said, by the way. So let's see what else we got. There's Addison Nichols, Hudson Clark, Jalen Braxton looking likely, Hudson Clark looking doubtful, Addison Nichols iffy, possible. That's what it sounds like. Okay. Anything else? So the people that didn't participate in the UAB, the guys that weren't dressed out, Desmond James, he'll be back. He was suspended. Miguel Mitchell, Shoffrey Brown, Spencer Hensley, Vito Calvaruso, I believe is no longer on the team. Tommy Varhall and Justin Logan. They didn't dress for the game, and it was a home game, so you had, I mean, like basically everybody dressed out. Okay, let's take a look back at this UAB game real quick. Obviously, really disappointing. My wife, after the game the next day, made a really interesting point to me because I was just talking about like how disappointing it is for fans to, and all the effort that it takes to, and money that it costs. And she's like, and my wife went to the game. She's like, I had to make sure that we had childcare. And, I didn't deal with any of that stuff, but she did. And a lot of families do make sure we had childcare. I had to get food for the tailgate. I had to get drinks for the tailgate. I had to find my outfit because she wants to wear, a certain kind of look for game day, and I get that. But all of that stuff, all the logistics, all the planning that goes in, because a Razorback football game is it's not just a game for most people. It's an event. And I just think about, like, we live in Fayetteville. What if you're a family of 4 coming up from different parts of the state? Like, how difficult, how much of a challenge, all the money that it costs to go to a game. And they kind of laid a dud there. Now, it is important to remember that they started off terribly. They did outscore UAB 34-10 the final 2.6 quarters. That's notable. The main reason, going back and looking at the game, that I felt like Arkansas just kind of, didn't play very well, didn't send off a very good vibe, is a lot of it comes down to Talon. Talon just didn't have a very good day passing the ball at all. And I saw that during the spring. If you watch my walk and talk, you'll know I talked about, and just our reporting earlier, I talked about that a lot. This offseason, there would be days where Talon just looked like, where's he throwing this ball? Like, I'm talking like 7-8 yards out of bounds, like on a deep ball, like no chance for a receiver to catch it. There are other days where he just looked amazing, and you saw that too. Like the throw that he had, I believe, the second quarter to Andrew Armstrong, it was like 30 yards down the sideline. Perfect throw, great pass. There was another throw where it was like 10 yards over the wide receiver's head in the end zone. Like you can't have those kind of things. But Pittman's right. He's going to make throws like that. He's going to make mistakes. It's just, and they had 5 drops, and you're going to have drop passes, but he just was not very good. Now, I made this tweet. This was when Arkansas was down 17-0. Boy, people didn't like this one. People did not like 388 people liked it, but a lot of the replies were just like, what are you drinking? Pass me what some of what you have. How do you come up with that hypothesis? My guess is Arkansas, this was 17-3. My guess is Arkansas will get it going. We'll get it together and still win this one by a decent margin, but there's just no reason to start like they have. Let's see what happens. And what did I base that on? I base it on the fact that they were running the ball almost at will. And so I figured, like, it's not like they're just getting stuffed. There are games like where you see like the other teams like run blitzing them or something like that, and they just can't get the running game going. Not this one. Arkansas, Jaquinton Jackson and Andrew Armstrong and Jaquinton Jackson and Taylon Green were just, they were running the ball pretty much at will. So a little bit different aspect of it. So I did feel like, and how you define decent is up to you, I guess. I mean, it was 17-3 at the time. I'm not saying like I'm always right, but I am saying like, there was a lot of despair, and college football is a roller coaster. It's part of what makes it fun, the emotional investment that you have with your team and every single play. It's a roller coaster. And I guess people wanted me to have more doom and gloom, and I wasn't happy about how they were playing. Don't get me wrong at all. Like, it's disappointing to me to see them come out when I know that they're capable of better than that. Now, defensively, I've heard people talk about the issues Arkansas has had getting to the passer. Well, what they were doing, in my opinion, is trying to offset that. Like, they knew Arkansas was probably going to try to come after them, get some pressure, and they have to do a better job at that. But they were throwing a lot of screen passes, and when you throw in screens, you're trying to get the defense sunk in, and then you dump it off to a back or receiver. Usually it was a running back. You also had Danico Slaughter in bad position a lot of times and not making plays on those plays. And they were really just throwing right there. I don't know if that's something they identified there. Or they just felt like Arkansas was going to bring a bunch of pressure at them, but they dumped the ball off like that over and over and over again. And Addison Nichols was in the frame. Did I say Addison Nichols? Danico Slaughter. Danico Slaughter was in the frame. I told you guys about getting old. Danico Slaughter was in the frame a lot and didn't make the play a lot. So a lot of people saw that. I personally, I like their second level as, a combination of, and we'll see, I don't think you just like give up on Danico Slaughter. That's not what I'm saying, but my preference at that spot, is probably Anthony Switzer. Now he's a little bit bigger. Slaughter's got a lot more speed. So they're different types of players. But I do think that Switzer can play that, but I like him there. And then at linebacker, I like a rotation of Steven Dix, Xavier Sori, who I thought played pretty well overall. He just had some mistakes, like what was all the face masks? I mean, there was a lot of face masks. And then Brad Spence, rotating those three linebackers. And then I think with Switzer there at nickel. And then, obviously I'm not saying give up on Slaughter, but I do think it would be nice to get Hudson Clark back. And then on the back end, Larry Worth and Jaden Johnson and TJ Metcalf at the safety spots. I do think Worth fits better at safety than at nickel. I just think he's so tall. The change of direction might be a little bit. You got to be shifty to play that spot. You got to be shifty. You got to be a good hitter. It's a difficult position to play, the nickel spot. So, and another guy like the kid, Tevis Metcalf, wouldn't mind maybe seeing him get a look. I don't know if this is the stage you want to bring him out on, but just a few thoughts on that. But yeah, and I'm not saying like everybody didn't have the right energy, but like I noticed on defense pretty early, I was like, man, some jogging going on. It's like, do they think they're playing UAPB? Because they're playing UAB, and UAB may not be a good team, okay, but they are a dramatic step up from one of the worst teams in FCS, which is what UAPB was. This team competes in the fifth best football conference in the world, the AAC, fifth best. It's not like, every one of these guys are probably the best guy on their high school team, probably played on really good teams, probably really well recruited. The quarterback was recruited by Arkansas, was offered by Arkansas, took official visit to Arizona State before committing to Baylor. It was a 4-star composite. Yeah. These guys are Division I major college football athletes, and yeah, they may not be very good, and Arkansas should wipe the floor with them. But what I'm saying is, like, you got to come in with the right attitude. You got to come in with the right mentality, like what Tennessee has done, or Ole Miss, or Auburn last weekend, or week one. You got to come in with the right attitude and blow the doors off these guys. Give your fans a little bit of a show. Which I hear, by the way, we talked about some NIL stuff in the walk and talk. I don't know the details of it, but like the last 2 deals they've done has been pretty good for NIL. Obviously they need that continuous flow, maybe the 50-50 raffle or something like that. But I hear these last couple of deals that they've done have been very beneficial in the NIL category. But football is a team sport, man. You got to have everybody involved. There's not another sport out there that I can think of where you need 50 players all on the same page, offense, defense, special teams, and then on sub pages beyond that. I mean, it is you got to have everybody. So it's interesting where we've been, though. Like, you get your hopes up after 70-0, near perfect performance against UAPB. You still feel encouraged. You're disappointed, like same old stuff against Oklahoma State. They come out, they jump out to a lead, and then they blow it at the end. But you still feel encouraged. And then this one is just like, You know what you're thinking. You're like, get rid of everybody, start who can we get as coach, all that kind of stuff. I still haven't changed my prediction on Arkansas. It's amazing some of the stuff I hear from people like tell me that I'm a homer and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and all this stuff. Like just a lot of ridiculous stuff. Like I picked them to go 5-7 this year. Like, I don't know what you want from me. You want me to go up there and ask Sam if he's surprised that he still have his job today? Like, what do you what do you want me to do? I think I asked some pretty difficult questions, and not that I'm meaning to be difficult. I just want to know the answers, and I think you want to know the answers. But I'm not going to get up there and ask those kind of questions like that. Like, I mean, just because some furious fan wants me to. I'm going to ask the questions that I think need to be asked, and if that question is about job security, then I'll ask that question. But at the time, right now, we all know what Sam Pittman's got to do. They need to at least go to a bowl game. They need to at least be 6-6. 7 wins would probably do it. 6 wins might do it. 5 wins, I think probably not. And now we have to start asking the question, where are those 6 wins coming from? Where are these other 3 wins, assuming that they beat Louisiana Tech? Where are they coming from? Auburn, Texas A&M, Mississippi State. Those are 3. And I'm not saying they're guaranteed to win any of those. They're not. But they have a chance in those. And I'm not saying they don't have a chance at home. I'm just saying it's shrunk. It's a dramatically smaller chance. Tennessee's good. Texas is good. Ole Miss is good. Missouri's good. LSU is pretty good. LSU might be the other opportunity where you might have a good, a better shot than some of those other ones. But like these are might wins. These aren't none of these are guaranteed. So got to get it together, or this thing's just going to be, we all know what the situation is right now. Like me asking Sam Pittman questions like that is not going to do anybody any good, except for satisfy, some furious Hog fan, which, I mean, I get being furious. I get being disappointed, and I get being upset in the state of the program. I also know that teams sometimes just don't play well. As I asked Sam, as you saw in the video, sometimes you play down to your opponent. We see it all the time. I don't think that Arkansas fans deserve that. I don't think they deserve just a mediocre getting by performance, especially the way they've been so far. But sometimes you get that. And yes, there are teams that play down to their opponent. It happens all the time in college football. You don't think like Notre Dame had a big letdown after the Texas A&M game when they lost to Northern Illinois? You'd like to think that like a team like South Carolina would come out and dispatch Old Dominion, but was it 23-19 or something? And then they just beat the dog out of Kentucky, a Kentucky team that just lost to Georgia 13-12. Football's a funny game, man. It's an oddly shaped ball for an odd game. It's very fitting. And it's the ultimate team sport, and you got to have everybody on the page. I don't think it's an encouraging sign to me that they laid an egg. They didn't lay an egg. They just didn't perform up to the standards that I think a lot of people have for them, or their own standards, most likely. But laying an egg, I think, means a loss. But yeah, they didn't play. It's not a good sign to me. Like you want to see your team hum it. You want to see your team doing like what Tennessee and Ole Miss are doing to their non-conference, just burying them, Yeah, I didn't do the normal long last look that I do. I just kind of just a little bit different. But, again, I'll say, like, I talked about this. Like, I didn't like that Jaquindon Jackson and Andrew Armstrong couldn't tell me a single thing about UAB personnel or any of their schemes or anything. Jaquindon Jackson had 15 carries for 147 yards, and Andrew Armstrong had 8 for 137 yards. I guess it didn't affect them too much, but I'm not saying they might not have been the only players that had that kind of outlook. Somebody else will make the play. We just got to roll the ball out and it's over. I think it took them a minute to realize, okay, this team's a little better. We got to show up. We got to do our best, which is, you just like to see better motivation from the start. I also don't think Nico Davier or TJ Metcalf played that bad, and they were the other guys. So, but these guys haven't done anything yet. Taylor Green's got to be better. I know that he can be better. I also know that he can be this. I've seen both. You just got to have less of this and more of the other Taylor that we saw. I mean, I wonder if wind played a role. Is he a guy that really struggles with the wind? Sometimes it's like, like for me, golf, like I know I make a lot of golf comparisons, but that's about all I got right now. So for me, like, sometimes I'm just striping it, just like I'm feeling really good. Just doesn't matter what I do or what I'm thinking, and I'm just hitting the ball. And then I'll go out there the next time. Maybe I speed things up a little bit because I played so well the time before, and my swing's quick and my tempo's off, and because I'm just like, I just like had this great one. I've got it figured out, and then just like it's like I never picked up a club. You guys know what I'm talking about, how that can go. And maybe Talen's like that a little bit. That's something he's got to work through and get better. And having a guy like Bobby Petrino can help him with that. I see a lot of people asking for Malachi Singleton. I don't think it's time to give up on Taylor Green. I mean, and the guy is super dangerous as a runner, and he'll always have that as long as he's healthy. If he's having an off day passing, he's got his legs still. And with the RPO game and all that kind of stuff, you can confuse defenses still if you don't just throw the ball every other down. And I think they're going to run more just based on what Sam Pittman says. I do have an interesting thought, though, on DJ Durkin, who was the defensive coordinator at Texas A&M last year with Bobby Petrino. I asked Sam, like, hey, does Travis Williams know Bobby's offense pretty well by now? I wonder if DJ Durkin does. Something to think about. But I have Bobby's book too. I mean, his book's out there. It's not just about the plays that he has. It's about how he calls the plays. And, he's going to do different things with, different style quarterbacks. We know that. Like I always bring up when Ryan Mallett was at Arkansas, and I heard an announcer one day say it's the perfect quarterback for Bobby Petrino's system. Well, I'm pretty sure he had a Heisman Trophy winner after that who was a totally different quarterback. So was he not the perfect quarterback? So he'll use different things for different guys. So a little concern on the offensive line. If Nichols can't come back, and I don't mean to like say anything bad about, Amari or Tyquise Crawford or Joe Moore or anything. Those are the next guys up. I just feel like I just think there's a drop on offensive line. I think they've got 5. I think they've got 6 when Kudus comes back. If he comes back, he's out for this game again. But I think he's been out for a long time. Like I would be surprised at this point, right? Like it feels kind of like a medical red shirt. So they've got 6 if Kudus comes back, but if they don't have 6, I feel good about 5, maybe 6, maybe Crawford too. Maybe I would throw Crawford in there as feeling okay about him. But I do wonder on Crawford, like this guy was very highly regarded. He looks like $1 million. He's huge. He's been here for 4 years and barely seen him, Got to get more receivers involved. Tyrone Broden has got to step up. I mentioned that on the walk and talk, guys. I need to notify Danny that I'm running long. Hold on. I don't want Danny to come on here pissy at me. A bit more, Danny. He can hear me. So Tyrone Broden, 6'7", 205. I've seen him in practice. Looks like $1 million sometimes. I know he's dealing with a turf toe injury. I myself have dealt with turf toe. I mean, it's been 20. How old am I? 25 years. It's been forever ago. But this is 1995. And I had a turf toe injury. It makes it impossible to push off on. I mean, it's very frustrating because you have the energy and the other parts of your body, and this one toe is preventing you, is my big toe, from pushing off. So I know he's dealt with that. I don't know where he is now, but he's missed a couple of difficult catches, not impossible, that you need an SEC starting wide receiver to make. Not all the time, but 50-50. He's got to make a couple of those catches that he missed. And if he's not going to, then they need to find. They've got an oversaturated room. They've got the wide receiver. They have too many guys on scholarship as it is. They need to give somebody else a chance if he's not going to. I think he can. I need to see it, and it's got to start happening. It's got to come, because you can't just be Isaiah Satania and Andrew Armstrong. It's amazing they went from like 14 wide receivers catching balls. It's just like decreased pretty profoundly each week. They also need Luke Has. Luke has got to get involved. I guarantee you're probably going to see this play where, they're on the line of scrimmage and Has is here and he goes underneath. That's a Bobby Petrino play we haven't seen. You see it, you used to see it, and he'll go underneath and slip out. They're going to figure out ways to get Has involved. They've got to. I don't know if they're just saving him. I don't know if his back's bothering him a little bit, but you got to get Luke Has involved. No question. You get Satania, Andrew Armstrong, Luke Has, get Broden going. And if Broden's not going to go, then get Isaac Tesla going. I almost wish you could just combine those guys into one guy with Broden's speed and Tesla is a pretty good leaper too, but and his size and everything, and some of the other qualities that Tesla has, like he's got great mitts. Tesla has, like, when I think about some of the great mitts for Arkansas wide receivers, obviously Traylon Burks comes to mind, but farther back, DJ Williams had tremendous hands. Peyton Hillis had tremendous hands. I think Tesla has mitts kind of like that. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the past game. This game, something always weird happens at Auburn, whether it's getting locked in the elevator, getting stripped at the goal line, and ruling it a touchdown, spiking the ball, fumbling the ball, spiking it behind you, having it recovered, and having an official say it wasn't immediately recovered, which was just one of the more ridiculous things that has ever happened in college football, and everybody knows it. But it's still an L. It's still an L on that record. Just ridiculous. All right, Danny. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm literally 18 minutes after I told Danny I would get to him. So if he's mad at me on here, then I deserve it. But I went a little bit longer than I thought I would. Danny, how's it going? I'm sorry.
What's up, man?
Right out of the gate. I know I said I'd get to you 18 minutes ago.
Oh, that's all right.
You know how I am. I'm like, hey, Danny, the show's going to start at this time. You're like, okay. So about 30.
I throw in about 20 minutes to whatever you say.
Well, I literally scheduled it.
Early.
I literally scheduled it for 3, and I was still a little bit late. So sorry to anybody out there waiting. And Danny, your thoughts on the performance on Saturday? Let's just go right there.
Yeah, another clunker, wasn't it, in Fayetteville? At least they avoided disaster. I can think of teams in the past that probably wouldn't have, probably would have lost that game. So it did make me do a quick study this morning, just looking at some of Coach Pittman's games in Fayetteville. He's coached 25 in Fayetteville now. And Trey, in 18 of them after Saturday, in 18 of the 25, the offense has started with a punt or a turnover in 18 of the 25. Now, here's the second part to it. The defense in those same 25 games has started with either a turnover or a punt. So they're doing their job defensively in 20 of those 25 same games. So it's the offense, man. And I'm not saying that's the reason they, completely laid an egg, clunker, whatever you want to call it, Saturday. They won the game. But what I'm saying is there's a lot to be said for early momentum, getting it started, keeping the fans in it.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like so often they come out just not ready to go. And fortunately, they were way better than UAB, and they were able to come back and separate a little bit. But I'm with fans. I see why they're frustrated after one like that. And
no question.
You look around, see what Ole Miss and Tennessee do to them, and boy, you wish you could just get a couple like that.
Yeah, I know. I do wonder a little bit, and I'm not obviously pointing to fans for any. I understand the frustration of thinking you're coming to watch the offense put on a show and it's 2020 at halftime, but I was a little surprised to see so many people empty out. My wife left. She was frustrated with it and mad, put all that effort in. The student section was like half full. Like they reported 75,000. That's tickets sold. It's not actual people in the stadium, because they said it was the most for a home game, a non-conference home game since 2006 USC, which those back then were estimated actual attendance. These are actually, tickets. So, but anyway, there wasn't that many people in there. There wasn't more people in there than Texas or BYU even last year. But it was a good crowd starting off, especially for UAB. But man, they really emptied out at halftime for a game that's 2020, like a game. People were ready to get out of there.
That's part of the problem, though, ain't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a game, and people didn't want a game. They wanted 70-0 again, is what they wanted.
Yeah.
They got a game. People are tired of a game against an opponent like that. 2020 ain't going to cut it.
You looked at Auburn, any Danny? I actually I haven't watched their game yet. I'm going to, but Hank Brown is the starting quarterback. I was just kind of licking my chops a little bit because I don't have the highest opinion of Peyton Thorne, and would definitely take Taylon Green any day over Thorne. It's like if I'm looking at a matchup and like this, maybe this is kind of even. who's the quarterbacks, but I haven't seen anything on Hank Brown. You seen anything on him? I looked at his recruiting profile. Wasn't a highly regarded recruit, number 60 quarterback in the country, like number in the thousands, I think, over 1,447 overall recruit in the country. He's just a redshirt freshman.
I remember him coming out of Lipscomb Academy there in Nashville. He was actually going to play for Hugh Freeze at Liberty, and of course followed him when he took the Auburn job. And
Barry Lunny offered him at Illinois.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
But yeah, I actually remember Hank a little bit coming out. But yeah, I watched him. Watched some of their game this morning against New Mexico, and I'm just not impressed. I know it's going to sound ridiculous based on, Arkansas just, I'm going to say clunker again, whatever that was Saturday, but coming off of a performance like that. But I think Arkansas ought to win this game, Trey, just based on what we've seen from Auburn so far. We've seen Cal. They didn't have any trouble going down there and win.
Yeah.
And, you're facing a redshirt freshman. I understand crazy things tend to happen to Arkansas down there, but I look at it just from on paper. I think Arkansas should be expected to go down there and beat a redshirt freshman, making his first SEC start, throwing it to a bunch of true freshman wide receivers. You would expect Arkansas to feel good about it. Having said that, I'm not going to pick the Hogs in the situation. I know better.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me at all if they go down there and win, because, like I said, I think they ought to be expected to win it. They're the better team on paper, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as we know, that doesn't always mean everything in this game.
Yeah, that's right.
But, I agree with you, Danny. I mean, there's part of me that's like wants to pick Arkansas in this one, but I also kind of struggled with that same idea
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago in the Oklahoma State game, and I ended up going with my brain telling me, okay, I think it's going to be a close game. I don't know if they can win a close game. I need to see it. So I still need to see it, I think. I actually, in the preseason predictions, I picked them to lose a close game at Auburn, and I have them winning next week against Texas A&M. I actually think Auburn is, in my preseason predictions I actually think Auburn is the more likely opportunity to win at this point, just based on what I've seen so far. I'm not blown away with Texas A&M, but I also don't think Texas A&M.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am, but that didn't mean I'm picking Arkansas to win this one. I have not wavered from my 5-7 as much as I have been called in recent days a homer, or somebody who's serving up Kool-Aid. Like, there's so many people out there, Danny, like fans and stuff, picking 8 wins and stuff, crowning them with 8 wins and stuff, or blaming media for saying this. Or I heard a guy on the radio the other day saying the media was the problem because they didn't tell you about Taylor Green and stuff. I was like, man, this guy's not listening to a damn thing that I've said.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's your fault. You're getting fired up there, bud.
I just, I say things that are wrong. I'm not saying I'm right all the time, because I'm not. But like when I feel, a certain way about something and I report it and people have me saying the other thing, it gets One guy put in my YouTube comments, like, this is the guy that had Arkansas winning 9 games. Like, what are we listening to him for?
Yeah, I remember that 9-3 prediction.
Yeah. Anything else you see from these guys? I got Cam Coleman. He's pretty good. Freshman.
Yeah, you got to love the receivers. I mean, Hugh Freeze was right in what he saw last year. They didn't have any playmakers. They didn't have any trouble with Arkansas. That didn't stop them. Arkansas was in a much different situation by that point of the year, obviously, or you would hope so anyway, rather than going into this one. But love the wide outs. They went out and got like 2 or 3 freaks, 5-star guys. Obviously, they've thrown it all over the field, really. I think they threw it to 14 different guys this past Saturday. And, with a new guy in at quarterback, I guess we haven't seen yet who his go-to guys might be, but seems like they got great size out there, man. 6'3", everybody's huge, and going to be a tough test for Arkansas's secondary. The biggest concern I would have, is, can you tackle in space? That's something we've seen Arkansas struggle with, especially one spot, especially at nickel there on defense. It's been a big question mark, and they're going to have to tackle this week. I think they can shut down the run simply because I saw them do it 2 weeks ago against a similar power run type team, a patient back. It's kind of what Jarquez and and Damari are too. You know, they're kind of similar players, 5'9", 5'10" type, 210 bowling ball type. So I like Arkansas's chances of putting it in the air and putting it on the freshmen to win it, just like they did 2 weeks ago. And the question becomes, can they stay out of their own way this time?
Yep, 100%.
That's it.
Any recruiting information? I know they had a decent number of visitors on hand.
Had a pretty good group. I'll start right there in Fayetteville. Feeling pretty good about the 2026 safety there at Fayetteville High. That's Kendrick Williams. He was back on campus this weekend, 6'1", 195. Also got offers from UCA and, of course, UNLV. They're all over it inside the state right now. And, Kendrick was offered in July, came to campus then, got back on campus this weekend. And like I said, I just talking to him briefly over the weekend. I kind of like where it's headed for Arkansas right now. So he's one. There was another one, headliner named Bear McWhorter.
Yeah.
Caught a lot of people's attention this weekend. Obviously, Bear was committed to Arkansas for a long time, decommitted over the summer. And it was kind of weird. He decommitted about a week after he was on campus for, it seemed like the 15th time as a recruit. Decommitted over the summer, and now he was back on campus this weekend. I talked to him just briefly, didn't have a ton to say, but did tell me Coach Pittman, obviously, his relationship is still strong there, and he's still considering Arkansas. Obviously, he's got a sister. I shouldn't say obviously. I'm sure not everybody knows that, but he's got a sister attending the U of A, so he might be back again a few times before he signs with somebody in the end. So we'll keep an eye on Bear in the meantime, right?
Yep. All right, Danny. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man.
We'll talk to you again on Thursday, all right?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'll be
all
here.
right, everybody. Danny West. Follow Danny at Danny West 24/7 on X, HawgSports Recruiting Analyst. You do need a VIP subscription to read his content. Okay. Danny does a great job, doesn't he? Just really has his finger. He's Arkansas. If Danny West isn't Arkansas, who's Arkansas? All right. So I got to tell you about my friends at Ozarks Go one last time. I didn't see anything in our comments that I hadn't answered. Somebody asked Miguel Mitchell where he is, and just not playing. They got guys ahead of him, I guess. So I don't know if it's an injury. I don't think it's an injury. So that's just where things are. But one more time on Ozarks Go. Like, you guys trust me, right? I mean, I'm not going to steer you wrong. So why would I steer you wrong here? I'm not going to take on an advertiser that I don't really believe in, especially, one that has, such an important thing as internet, because your family is at stake here. Like, you want to have arguments all the time with your wife over why the internet doesn't work, or your kids or anything. Honey, I can't get my show on, or, my computer's not working, or my phone. What's wrong? What's going on here? Let me go upstairs and let me unplug the router and plug it back in again. And just everybody wait. We got to wait 12 seconds. So unplug it, wait 12 seconds, make sure the battery goes all the way down, plug it back in again. The good thing about these guys too is, like, they don't jack your rates up. Like, I noticed one year I had, like, every single year I'd look at it, it's like $7 more, $7 more, $7 more. And I'm just like, and I called them and I was like, hey, this isn't okay. I think I'm going to change. And they're like, oh, well, we'll get you back down to your normal rate. Why didn't you just do that originally? Why did I have to call and cancel? Ozarks Go, you're going to pay the same this year as you're going to pay next year. So eventually, yeah, there's inflation and things like that, but they're not just going to jack you up without any kind of notice or anything like that. You're going to pay what you pay this year. You're going to pay it next year at Ozarks Go. That's the best stuff I can say about these guys is it works. It works and it hums. So appreciate them for being sponsors of the show. Proud to have them as sponsors. All right. That's pretty much it. We'll be back with you guys Thursday for the primer. And I'll be doing a walk and talk. Where do y'all want me to do the walk and talk? Like, I've done it like over near the neighborhood. I've done it in my backyard when my wife scared the crap out of me one time because it was dark. And yeah, I don't know where else to do it. So those are the options. It's going to be dark. So, but I'm not going to be at Auburn. I'm not going back there. Not happy about it. because I'd like to go. I'd like to go to Auburn. It is a difficult place to get to because you got to travel to Atlanta, and then you got to, get a rental car and drive 2 hours to Auburn. And the game's over. You drive 2 hours back, stay in a hotel. It's just a lot of travel. It's one reason I like going to the Oklahoma State game, 3 hours away. I'm not terribly upset about the idea of eventually playing at OU. Easier places to get to. All right, everybody. That's the show for today. Appreciate everybody hopping on. Sign up at HawgSports if you haven't. HawgSports.com. Plenty of reasons to sign up. 30% off right now. All right. Thanks to Danny West. Thanks to all of you for hopping on. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.